Good evening. A blessed and wonderful new year, and welcome to the first show of Reading to the 246, the 2023 edition. My name is Karen Wall, but you can call me Auntie Karen. Reading to the 246 is a space where children of all ages, including us adults, can learn facts about Barbados, islands across the region, and the world. A special shout out to our viewers on Facebook and YouTube. I want to say thank you for joining us for another year, but also don't forget to like, tag, and share. It's the new year, and we have visited with friends and family. We've enjoyed our Christmas holidays and visited with family and friends, both here, over, and away. And as our grandparents would say, of course, we've made New Year's resolutions. What if one of your resolution was to visit as many Caribbean islands as you could in one trip? And how would you do so, readers? Well, with the help of this evening's creative, we have popped over to Canada to see how our imagination can make all things possible. Welcome, Yolanda T. Marshall.
Thank you very much for having me. I am so happy to start the new year off by sharing my work, my adventure. I am Yolanda T. Marshall, a Guyanese born Canadian author of Asian heritage. I have to add that. Thank you for having me.
Mm. As Yolanda just said, she is an award winning Guyanese born Canadian author and columnist. In 2015, after becoming a mom, Yolanda was inspired to write her first children's book, Kima's First Carnival. Yolanda is also the author of A Piece of Black Cake for Santa, Sweet Sorrel Stand, Miles Away in the Caribbean, C is for Carnival, Hot Cross Buns for Everyone, and one of the Canadians Broadcasting Corporation's Best Canadian Picture Books of 2020, My Soca Birthday Party with Jollof Rice and Steel Pan. Her newly released title, Christmas Elves Being Themselves, just joined her list of 15 published books representing the African Caribbean diaspora. Please share for our readers, Yolanda, how the birth of your son inspired your journey into becoming an author.
Yes, of course. Well, prior to writing children's books, I actually published my first book in 2008 while attending the University of Toronto. I started writing poems at 8 years old. I used to love writing poems behind my exercise books. My dad is a jazz musician, so when he plays, I would have these little songs I would make up and, rhyming and wordplay. It was just my thing, and I enjoyed it, of course. So in 2008, I accumulated, of course, hundreds of poems, which I put together a beautiful book called Obeifo, and about approximately 200 poems, and that was my first venture into publishing. And after that, I didn't do much with publishing actually because of self publishing that book. I gained a lot of skills. And I've been working in the corporate world and I ventured into academic publishing. And when my son was born, I was forced to confront the fact that there weren't books with characters representing him and not just a black face in a book or a black kid. You can take an art character and color it black and put words on it. It was more to it, like who is he? Who was? How does he identify himself in society? What are the kind of things he will celebrate and find joy in? What will make him feel like he belongs in Canada? His heritage has been here. The history in Canada. His heritage has been here. The history of it. Um, and it's just mostly a celebration of the things he would love, and his culture. Because as you see, I wrote a book called A Piece of Black Cake for Santa because we are not eating milk and cookies. We eat black cake and we drink sorrel. So I wanted books like that to represent him and a lot of kids like him throughout the Caribbean and African diaspora. So when he was born, I'm like, okay, I need a book. And I did Command's First Carnival because when I first came to this country, the one event that made me felt like I belong here or I could see myself here was Caravana or Carnival, Caribbean Carnival. And I remember
Yep.
seeing it, and I'm like, there were so many people, and they were dancing so music. Oh my gosh, all these people come to watch this carnival, and I felt like I belong here. So I figured, this is the same kind of feeling I know he will get as a child when he sees that, and he'll see a lot of people who look like him. He understands the words, he understands the songs, and he will feel like, yeah, this is my Canadian carnival. So Command's first carnival um, was a story written about a Canadian child's first attendance to Carnival in Canada, Carabana,
Mhm.
and of course it's just his poems, a short poem where he
Mhm.
beats the drum with his mom, and then he wave a flag, and buy some beef patties and all these good stuff we eat on Carnival Day, and watch
Mhm.
the masqueraders. So that, I would say, his birth really made me the person I am now in terms of
Mhm.
writing for children, and I will remain here because kids are just so beautiful and so awesome to write for, and I believe it makes a great impact.
Okay. So, what are some of the books that you would have read growing up, and how important, as you just stated some as it relates to your son, but how is it important for us here in the Caribbean and for other children growing up in Canada, Caribbean children growing up in Canada, to see themselves in writing?
Yes. I mean, growing up in the Caribbean, we have access to a lot of books because most of them didn't really celebrate our culture. There weren't a lot of books celebrating my accent, celebrating how we talk, celebrating stuff. You sometimes are taught to be very colonialized, as I would
Yeah,
say, taught
British
to
English, proper
British
English.
English and all this kind of stuff. But no, I loved everything that was so Caribbean about us, and I've always been drawn to Afrocentric just decorations and just everything about it, and learning about Africa. My grandfather was a Pan Africanist in a sense, so I was exposed to my identity at a very young age, where my ancestors were from, and such, which was such a good thing. Like, I appreciate that the older I got. So I believe that it's very important because it teaches children to harbor self love in their identity, and to know that it doesn't matter where they are in this world, whether in the Caribbean and they step out into North America or Europe, wherever you are, Asia, be so proud of who you are, because you'll
Mhm.
be so surprised at how many people wish they
Mhm.
had as much vibrancy in their culture as we do, and I'm not being biased, or kinda, but I think it's such a great feeling. When I came to Canada, I embraced my Caribbean culture even
Mhm.
harder. I held on to it. I held on to my friends in school that had that Caribbean accent. I held on so
Mhm.
tight because it was a comfort part. And when you sit and you can eat, and we can eat the same food, and no one's making fun of our food,
Mhm.
and we're looking at it and we're like, they all dance, and look at them dancing to reggae and stuff. Oh yeah, they love that stuff. Because that was us, and you felt so proud. So it's nice when children feel that way. And when it comes to books, books
Mhm.
teach you. Reading is so
Mhm.
important. If kids don't see themselves in books and they can't relate, there's a large chance that they will want to read books, right?
Mhm.
Because who cares? They're only, introduced to books in school just to get the grade and whatnot, and by the time they get older, they don't care, right? Because they can't remember a book that says, "Hey, this is you. This is what you did on
Mhm.
such an intimate level," So I find that my books, it touches the hearts of adults, even like myself. Like, I write for my inner child that didn't have that book. A piece of black cake for Santa. I didn't see a black Santa eating black cake at all.
Mhm. No,
Who's
you
giving
didn't.
Santa? No one. I did that book. And miles away in the Caribbean, there wasn't a book in Canada that took this Canadian child and
Mhm.
says, "Hey, let me teach you about the Caribbean." There wasn't anything like that. But yet, it's our reality. We talk to each other, and yeah, you're from St. Vincent. Yeah, you guys have this, and we know what each of us have. And it's kind of like, let's celebrate that. Let's educate
Mhm.
others about where we're from. We're not from a banana hut somewhere, There's
Exactly.
always on a boat. So it's kind of like, let me show you the beauty of our country, where I'm from, where what we call home. So I believe it's so important. So we identify, we teach kids how to be confident,
Mm-hmm.
especially in literature, and hopefully we have a younger generation that can continue to write, continue to share their story, and harvest our histories, our experiences, right? So it's better for the future. My son, he got it better than I did, which is a good thing. And I know that my grandkids, God spare life if I have, that they will learn. Like it'll be so normal. Like if you tell my
Mm-hmm.
son, yeah, I never had books like this, he looks at me and he's like, what do you mean? Right? So it's so important for them to see themselves and to feel seen in any society they're in, any group around the world. Our Caribbean culture is to be celebrated.
Good. So no matter where we go, we Caribbean people, we be representing. When we
Yes,
come back after the break, we'll go right into story time with Yolanda T. Marshall as she shares the story Miles Away in the Caribbean. Okay, over to you, Yolanda.
awesome. So this is miles away in the Caribbean. So, do any of you know how many full member nations are in CARICOM? CARICOM is our Caribbean community. And I am so proud to say, as a Canadian, I was able to experience having a passport that says Caribbean community. And when I received my Canadian citizenship, I held on to that passport and I will forever. It is like the most important thing to me because it has my name, it has my travels, and most of all, it says Caribbean community. So this book is Miles Away in the Caribbean. So Miles Away in the Caribbean is a great wordplay because we're going to take this Canadian child and take him miles into the Caribbean, and his name is Miles. Like my son's name is Miles, and guess what? My son Miles has visited most of these countries in person. Oh, yes. So, miles away in the Caribbean. And as you can see, the kids are sitting down. It's a story being told in a classroom in Canada, or in the US, or in the UK. It's story time, my little ones. I have an exciting book. Gather around and let's have a look. It's about a boy named Miles who travels in a magical spaceship. He visited beautiful countries while on his Caribbean trip. And there's a map on that wall, something we all should have. Look at that. Hello, Antigua and Barbuda. I can see your highest mountain top. Let's make a stop on Mount Obama. Wow, there are hundreds of beaches here, so many I can see. Is that my tummy grumbling? Yep, time to eat delicious fungi. So that's fungi in, look at this, Antigua and Barbuda. Did you know that Antigua and Barbuda has 365 beaches? That's a beach for every day of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Here I am in the Bahamas, diving in the world's deepest water-filled sinkhole, Dean's Blue Hole. Under the noonday sun, I go bone fishing. In the warm tropical waters, you will find me relaxing. Of course, in the Bahamas, they do have the deepest sinkhole where expert divers from around the world go to dive. Oh, and bone fishing. It's delicious. Greetings, Barbados! I'm here to explore Harrison's Cave with lots of limestone formations to admire and flowing streams of crystal clear water. There is Grandpa and Mama Kathy with my favorite Bayesian dish, cheese on bread. It's cuckoo and flying fish. And there is Mouse and Mama, Kathy and Grandpa. and he's getting some cuckoo and flying fish. My favorite meal as a child. I still make cuckoo. Good morning, Belize. What a beautiful day to feel the island's breeze, blowing the sweet earthy scent from the cocoa trees, which are used to make chocolate bars. Oh, so yummy. Yikes! The pumas, jaguars, and crocodiles are chasing after me. And that is Belize. Belize is known to have the best premium chocolate in the world and also wildlife. Did you know that little country has pumas, jaguars, and crocodiles? Oh, yeah. Bonjour, Dominica! A heated adventure awaits. The steam is rising from the boiling lake. In my spaceship I'll remain. Don't want to burn my little toes while flying high over the magnificent volcanoes. So did you know, Dominica, they speak French? And look at that. They do have an active volcano. Oh yeah, and a boiling lake. It's pretty hot because of the active volcano. So you got to be careful in those areas. I'm in Grenada, known as the island of spice. I smell nutmeg, cloves, saffron, cinnamon, and everything nice. Mmm, like mommy's kitchen when she sings sweet calypso while baking. Do you see that? All the spices and the bacon. Grenada is known as the island right in the Caribbean. Dear Guyana, on the continent of South America, the land of many waters, I'll fly over the lush rainforest, the Kaito Falls, and Montaraima, and share smiles of the diverse faces welcoming me. We'll sing together. Your children salute you, dear land of the free. So all the diverse faces. And did you know Guyana is a Caribbean nation? Because of culture. A lot of people feel that because it's not floating in the ocean, that it doesn't belong there, but we share the same history, the same people, the same culture, and it is the home of CARICOM. Bonjour, Haiti! It's a parade, trying to dance in a colorful costume for my vibrant performance. Bring the bamboo trumpets, maracas, and the drums, celebrating all day until it's sundown. And look at that, the dancers and that's the bamboo trumpet. Yes, the Rara Parade is one of the oldest African traditional parade in Haiti. Wonderful celebration. Jamaica, the in the Thames River Falls. He made new friends while playing Dandy Candy, Super, and Nedville. Driving through Kingston, I visited Trenchtown, where I enjoy skanking to reggae songs. And there is Miles in Dunn's River Falls, yes. And of course in Trenchtown, playing in the streets. That's one thing I love about the Caribbean, playing in the streets after school. Montserrat, are you ready? I joined the masquerade troops with a painted mask and a tall hat, and I pranced along with this group. This emerald island came alive as the crowd wore green to sing and play. I am celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Look at this. So you see the masqueraders? And this masquerade troupe is also visible in St. Kitts, I do believe. And Montserrat has one of the biggest Irish um, celebrations, I would say, the parade, because there's such a heavy history, Irish history in Montserrat. It's a sunny day in St. Kitts and Nevis. Oh wow, what a view! On top of Timothy Hill, along the coastline, I can see the Brimstone Hill Fortress, history preserved under the sunshine. Hey, where's my mango? A tourist yells as she searches around frantically. I chuckled and pointed out the culprit. A cute but mischievous monkey. So St. Kitts has the beautiful, beautiful preservations of their buildings, the Brimstone Hill Fortress, and a lot of little sneaky monkeys. Miles did enjoy those. Sacre St. Lucia, I got lost in the hustle and bustle of Castries Market. Vendors sold guava, passion fruit, coconut, and little trinkets. There's a special place I had to visit while here. The library located in Derek Walcott Square. So look at that, guava. And this is one of the oldest libraries in the Caribbean in St. Lucia. Did you know St. Lucia has the highest literacy rate in the Caribbean? Yes,
Mm.
and a lot of award-winning authors like Derek Walcott. I used to read a lot about him. St. Vincent and the Grenadines! What a lovely day to play at the beach with black sand between my toes, and visit the city of arches, walk on cobblestones, dive with the whales, dolphins, and manatees, and whistle with the warblers as they fly from tree to tree. Look at that black sand. And that is because of the volcanoes that they have, right? And look, manatees and whales. This is one island where you see these huge mammals close by and dolphins. Good morning, Suriname. What's brewing in the witch's market? I'll peek at the hidden potions and tempting dust treats. Mr. Freeze is serving pum. Yum! I won't turn down this offer to have a taste of Suriname's blended culture. So, did you know that Suriname is a Caribbean country next to Guyana in South America? And this country has our Dutch brothers and sisters, right? It is so beautiful. And pum is a very popular dish. Surprisingly, it's not the national dish, but it's a very popular dish. And it's influenced by East Indians, from Africans, everyone, okay? I love Suriname. I've lots of family there. Trinidad and Tobago, let's play mass! I hear the joyful laughter of the carnival crowd, blowing their horns and whistles out loud, and singing the lyrics of their favorite soca songs as I dance to the beats of the steel pans all day long. Look at that. He played mass in Trinidad and Tobago, and do you know why? Because Carnival was birthed in Trinidad and Tobago. And the steel pans too. Where should I visit next? Aha! Cuba! But Miles was exhausted after having so much fun on his trip to the Caribbean. In his magical spaceship, he flew home to Canada and shared stories of his adventures. And there he is, back home, and that's the end of the adventure. For now, isn't it awesome how books can allow us to travel around the world? And this book I dedicated to all my brothers and sisters, my families in our Caribbean nations, of course, with everyone and a little map of the region. So you will never forget where my culture is from. Miles away in the Caribbean.
Wow. I absolutely love that book, Yolanda. It was like you were telling a story, but we were still learning facts about Canada. I mean, sorry, about all those different islands across the Caribbean. I mean, it's I'm this is the second show I've been at loss for words, but what I will say is this. For a child who has not been able to visit all of those islands, being able to hear you read the story, hear about the the different things about Dominica, Montserrat, St. Kitts, Suriname, Guyana. Even as I was sitting here, I was also learning things as well too. And I mean, it was a beautiful experience to see how we can transform a story into so much more. This is a type of story that, as a teacher, I will like that I would share with my class so that they get the experience of hearing you reading it and having you share those facts. I just love that
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Thank you, thank you. I have to represent my Caribbean nation as well. And it's also a really nice education because even in Canada too, a lot of times we don't know about each other. And people are now learning. So it's so good if you can put it in. And you know, I read these books for school, like just last year alone, I read for like over 20,000 students. And every time I read Miles Away in the Caribbean, you'd have students go, wow, are those real places? Because they can't
Mm,
believe it. I'm like, yes, every place I mention is real, and the countries that I mentioned in it, when you go, you will see it. This is so real, and you know, it's what makes a lot of them unique in a sense, right? So yeah, I love it. I love the like pretty much the wording of it. It took me a while to write that this book, but it made what made it easy is because I was traveling a lot with Miles. Then I went to a lot of
mm,
countries that I've been to before with Miles, and it's kind of like a little refresher, and it just made it like flow so nice. And you see how his eyes like lit up when he like encountered certain things in different countries. So I love it, I love it, I love it. So I love talking about my Caribbean countries and the nations and educating people. As I say, we came from beautiful, beautiful homes. Yeah.
mhm. So you're not just telling about the Caribbean, you're also sharing Caribbean culture as well. Um,
Yeah.
Soca birthday, a sorrel sand, and a black cake for Santa. These are just some of the titles that are some of the words that are incorporated into your titles. Do you think it's
Yes.
important for you to share our culture with children, especially those of Caribbean parentage across the world?
Yes, I do, because a lot of times you have an ignorance. At times I would meet up with people that have, or even you'd get into books and they would exclude Guyana or Suriname as a Caribbean nation, um, or not acknowledge even French Guyana as having a Caribbean cultures and such, and they have Caribbean background, and it's like, okay, hold up, let's do a re-education here because somewhere you missed it along the line, right? And then I realized a lot of the people that would have that notion in their head. A lot of times they haven't even written common entrance, or they've written it so long ago. I don't know what score they have, but they missed a lot of it, right? So simple things that we know as Caribbean people. And then, of course, in the Caribbean, she was teaching them like, "Hey, we have this," and we would feel like, "Yes, this is Jamaica, or this is Beijing." And it's like, "Okay, let me take you back. Black egg actually originated in the UK from the British plum pudding. Oh,
Mhm.
sorrel came from West Africa." So it's educating even people within the Caribbean community about it, so that we can speak intelligently about our culture to other people. Give them the right information, because I can't tell you how many times I used to like my blood would boil when people say you don't look Guyanese. Like, what am I supposed to look like, a pot of pepper pot? I don't know. Or you know this or you know that, or it's like, what do you mean? Like, it's just it's weird. So it's kind of like, let's educate ourselves, celebrate ourselves, and it teaches others how to celebrate us and celebrate with us, right? So it is very important that we know ourselves, so that people, it translates to others knowing that yes, these people are confident with themselves, they know themselves, and it's carries on generation after generation.
Mhm. Now, I'm not going to ask about plans for further books, but are there any plans to say transfer your books into animations?
Yes, I well the thing is now, because I don't have I when I started self-publishing, like this book is still self-published and it sells so well. Like a lot actually, like thousands every year. And I don't. This is still in self-published format, but a lot of my recent books, a lot of my books now are traditionally published, so that would be up to the publisher. I
Mhm.
will have the rights to do that, but they do intend to. So a lot of that, means a lot of you can animate your book easily, but like then what are you gonna do with it? Put it on. You
Very
too,
true.
who knows? But so you gotta, yeah, you have to know like what are we gonna do with this material? But yes, of
Hmm.
course, I'm so open to that. I think that would be ideal and it will be cool. Um, but I think right now I'm focusing a lot on the reading aspect of it because our
Hmm.
kids really do need to read a lot more, especially in Canada.
Not only in Canada, but here in the Caribbean and Barbados, especially. Like that's one of the reasons that I would have ended up
Yeah,
starting this show as well to really encourage our children to read
yeah,
and not just read just random things, but read diverse literature, which is
yeah,
aimed towards them. Now, I
yeah,
know you're also a poet. Do you think
yeah.
poetry is a great way for our children to express their emotions?
I do believe so. I think poems. I find that my poetry skills came from reading a lot as a child and being read to a lot
Mhm.
every night as a child. My son, I read to him every night. By 2 years old, he was reading. 3 years old, I was like, what? Couldn't believe it. Like it's just when it happens, it happens, and it allows you to have a lot of wordplay in a sense. Like I'm not like some big lyricist. I don't think so, but I think I've got it down to the point where I can tell this big story and this big history and this big energy and joy and celebration into a few words, right? So I do believe so. Reading is so important. The more you read, the more words you learn, the more you know how to use it and make it flow, right? And that's how you can write music. That's how you can write poems. Music is poetry. So yeah, the more words, and in order to learn that, how to use these words, how to rhyme, it comes from reading. Yeah, yeah.
Now, I know in your bio you mentioned a connection to Guyana, but do you want to share any connection to other Caribbean islands?
In terms of my books, or for which
In
one?
terms of your heritage, your culture, parentage, anything else
Oh
you want to
yeah,
share?
yeah. Well, okay. Well, of course, my books are like so. I always try my best to make sure it touches on everyone because Caribbean people. If you write something, hey, you forgot me. And it's like, relax, I got you in this book. I got you in that book. Um, So I really try to come from a universal, like don't take sides. I stay neutral in it. But in terms of my heritage, yes, I have family throughout the Caribbean. Let me say that. I have family in Trinidad and Tobago that's been there from a long time. My family's always been travelers. As a young kid in the Caribbean, I was lucky enough to, before the age of 10, travel to a lot of countries, over 10 countries with my mom. I came to Canada at 1 years old and went back and then came back. So I was a traveling Canadian kid. And so I've been open to my culture in different aspects, and then my family, of course, as I said, in Suriname and such. But my heritage is Guyanese Bajan. I am Guyanese Bajan. I'm born in Guyana, and my dad's side is Bajan. So it's like I grew up in a house where that Bajan accent is thick and that Guyanese accent is thick from my grandparents' side, and it's just who I am in a sense. And of course, a lot of my friends are from various parts in the Caribbean. And in terms of my son, now I think as a Caribbean author, I'm also a African mom because
Mm.
my son is his dad is Kenyan. So I've been to
Mm.
Kenya like many times in the past, but before he was born. Actually, I love Kenya so much. I told him like we have to have our wedding in Kenya.
Mm.
So he
Nice.
was like, no, I don't know. I was like, no, that'll be good. So I love Kenya. So my son is Caribbean heritage, and then of course a little Swahili kid. You know,
Mm.
um, so I cook the food, and a lot of times I understand the words. I sing a few songs in Swahili and whatnot. So I'm Kenyan mama, as I would,
Mhm.
because of my son. So it's so funny how the birth of my son has just opened my world to this culture that will forever be a part of me. So as you can see in my Suka birthday party, how that book
Mhm.
put these Caribbean kids and Africans and going, they saw that, hey, we got similarities, right?
Mhm.
There weren't books like that at all to say like, hey, you got pilau, I have pilau too, right? Wait, cuckoo is cuckoo. Like you have to keep saying that to people. So
True.
but yeah, my I find I belong to the world, as I would say, but more so I
Mhm.
am Guyanese Bayesian.
Mm. So much, so much, so much in this one small package, bursting with opportunities, bursting with so much. Now, you've won several awards in the past, but recently you were nominated for Author of the Year by Loop. How does it feel to win an award for doing something that you love doing?
I love when I get awards. I don't get like the big major, all the 100,000 awards and whatnot. But it's nice when people acknowledge you and say, this is like one of our best books and
Mm,
whatnot. It's a very good feeling because you feel seen in the industry, and even without that, it doesn't matter because I'm so confident in what I write that even if
mm,
someone copies my style or writes something the same or whatever, I don't I just look at it and I smile because you have to be confident to say, I know myself, I know what I'm writing is so important. And my
mhm,
readers like it, that is what matters. So I always keep that in my head, like, my readers love it. I know I could read it to someone in my community and they're like, oh my gosh, and that's what matters, right? But it feels good, and I'm not going to lie. I think when the acknowledgement is coming from within the Caribbean, even with the loop,
mhm,
just to be nominated, I don't,
mhm.
I don't know. They haven't announced the winner yet. I don't care if I win. The fact that I was nominated,
They did.
I was like, I was in the Loop News articles, and I was in Guyana newspaper, the Trinidad. Like I was just like that to me is such
Mm,
a massive deal. Although I'm in
mm,
Canada, and I do, yeah, I've been in Canadian big newspaper, I've been on TV many times, right? But
mhm,
nothing beats being acknowledged and being seen and being written about in Caribbean newspaper because it's validation, as in like
mhm,
we see you, you're our child, and you're there and you're spreading the culture. So that means so much, and it makes me
mm.
want to continue writing. I feel so good interacting with people like yourself, when I feel seen, and it's like, yeah, this is nice.
Well,
Yeah,
we at Reading to the 246, we are wishing you all the best, and we are looking
thank
out
you.
to see who's the winner. And we know whether you win or not, we know that just being, like you said, being nominated, that is a really powerful thing. Now, readers, I hope you have been paying attention. I want you to name at least five of the destinations that Miles visited in his spaceship. So you can write your answers in the chat across all of our platforms. You can write it on YouTube. You can also share it on Facebook. And you can also share it on Instagram when we upload our video later. When we come back, it's time for a Bajan mashup with Yolanda. Are you ready, Yolanda?
Yes, I am.
Okay, question number one. A dish you enjoy in Canada that is a perfect blend of all your favorite places across the Caribbean. A dish that you would enjoy in Canada that is the perfect blend of all of your favorite places that across the Caribbean.
Well, first of all, I would say I don't know so much a dish. I would say a treat. So when I think of
Mm,
black cake, I can't go wrong. It's everywhere.
yeah, I had a
It's
guest on.
everywhere.
Yeah,
In
I
the
had a
house.
guest on 2 weeks ago from Jamaica, and it was our Christmas show. And she was making black kid in Jamaica, so that is so true. Black kid is definitely
Universal.
universal. Good.
Correct.
Question number two: a New Year's resolution that every child should make.
To read more books. To read more books every year. Yes.
Mhm. Read, hear that, children. Read more books. And I think that that was one of our New Year's resolution as well. We actually have a challenge that's going on. A place in Canada that is a melting pot of Caribbean culture.
Toronto. Hands down. Toronto. You find a lot of us here. We just come here. It's just one of those.
What is good? A little known fact. I know you shared a lot of facts when you're reading, but a little known fact about Guyana that everyone should know.
Guyana is a Caribbean nation that's also known as the land of many waters.
Mm. Yup, yup, yup. Now, off the top of your head, a short poem to encourage our readers to take up reading.
Oh man, that's like really, what's the shortest thing I know? The more you read, the more things you will know.
Mhm.
The more that you learn, the more places you'll go.
Mm. The more you read, the more you will know, the more places you will go.
Go.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. Ah, when we come back, it's time for Simon Says. Okay, on our previous show, Simon Says when 007 was birthed on these shores. I wrote and solved high crimes here galore. Let me read it again for you. On our previous show, Simon Says when 007 was birthed on these shores. I wrote and solved high crimes here galore. Who, what, or where am I? And we were talking about Ian Fleming. He wrote all of the James Bond novels in Jamaica, and our previous guest was from the island of Jamaica. In fact, if you visit Jamaica, there is the Ian Fleming International Airport, which is in picturesque Ochos Rios. So you can check that out. This week, Simon Says goes, I am 4 times taller than Niagara Falls and 2 times taller than Victoria Falls. Let me read it again for you. Simon Says for this week goes, I am 4 times taller than Niagara Falls and 2 times taller than Victoria Falls. Who, what, or where am I? And I know that Yolanda is a Caribbean woman, so she knows just where I'm talking about. Mm.
Yes.
So, so children, you have to go and figure that out. Again, Simon Says for this week goes, I am 4 times taller than Niagara Falls and 2 times taller than Victoria Falls. Who, what, or where am I? Now, remember, children and parents, to like, comment, and share on our Reading to the 246 Facebook and Instagram, as well as our YouTube page. Special thank you to you, Yolanda, for agreeing to be part of the Reading to the 246 family. You can check her out at www.ytmarshall.com/Yolanda Marshall books. Or you can also check her out at linktree/author underscore YTM and also on Instagram at author.ytm. Yolanda, do you want to share anything with our readers before we go?
I'd like to thank everyone for listening to my stories. Thank you for having me here. And I hope to keep writing and keep celebrating. Let's all celebrate our Caribbean culture. We're vibrant, we're great people. So we deserve to have as much joy in literature as possible. Thank you.
Mm. And I agree, joy through literature. Again, I want to wish all of our readers a happy new year. And a special birthday greeting goes into one of our previous guests, Rosemary Allen. She celebrated her birthday earlier this week. On that note, don't forget you can share your birthday greetings via messages. If you want to shout out during the show, you can also do that. Also, have you started on your reading goals for 2023? Mm. Remember, a book a day keeps the fog away. Or a book a day, the more you read, the more places you will go, the more things you will know. Mm. Finally, Reading to the 246 wants to remind you reading takes you where your imagination can't. Have a good, great evening, readers.